Hello everyone, I am JJ Dixon and we are really winding it down. We are probably at this point 2 days away from our last episode, and we wouldn't dare let this Black History Month go by without speaking to Lonnie Miller Jr. Most of us here in Jacksonville remember that name Lonnie Miller so well because it's all over the place. There's a park named Lonnie Miller, and there's a statue downtown named Lonnie Miller. And I'm going to let Lonnie Miller Jr. tell you who he is and tell you about the significance of that name, Lonnie Miller, around Jacksonville.
Again, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to come here and speak today.
Oh, of course.
On my father and myself and my family, on their behalf. We like to say thank you very much for all you have done, and as well as for the community.
Thank you, Lonnie.
As she said, I'm Lonnie Miller Jr. I am the son of the late Lonnie Miller Sr.
Yep, Lonnie Miller Sr.
And this is a picture of the two of us together when he had got one of his awards down at the police station.
Yep.
Jim McMillan was the sheriff at that time. And you can see right here, Airman Jim McMillan at the award ceremony. My father was a great person to our family. He believed in making sure that all of his children had a proper education. That was one of the things that he valued most.
Oh, yeah.
And he made sure that we all had a good education. I can attest to that. I can remember some of the stories.
Oh, boy.
The physical story.
These are the ones we want to hear about. This is what I've been waiting on.
The physical story.
That's what I've been waiting on.
Y'all don't want to hear about the oral story because that'll hurt. It was the physical story that kind of, put us where we are today. And because of some of his physical stories that he instilled on all his children, they were done in love.
Hey, when we talked to the other children, I remember Brian Jefferson couldn't get past the word beat. I got beatings. And I would remind him, you just got a little spanking. That's all it was.
You got to be politically correct nowadays because sometimes there's no statute of limitation. They let it go back sometime.
And get them out.
Well,
we're going to get into that part of it. But we're going to definitely get into that part of it for sure. But I want to let those watching who are not from Jacksonville or who may not be familiar with who Lonnie Miller Sr. is. He was a police officer and a great detective. Do you remember what year he started with the sheriff's office?
You may not believe this. Before he started with the sheriff's office, Jacksonville was two governments. They had the old county and the old city.
Right, before consolidation.
Before consolidation, which was in 1968. He started out working in a printing shop.
Oh, okay.
At 1234 Walnut Street.
Wow.
And as he saw that was a good job, but he had a family. And you have to, how can one say, think for the future.
That's right.
So he had an opportunity to get in law enforcement. And back in the day, and that's the word I always like to say,
back in the day,
Jacksonville had what they call justices of the peace. Today they're called judges.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it looks quite some time. And he started off as a constable when he got a job there with Mr. Lonnie Sykes. And that was back in 1964. Wow.
Okay.
I'm getting there in age myself.
Long time ago. My God.
And he enjoyed working because they were like the neighborhood police person, because each of the justices of the peace had their own police department.
Wow, that's very interesting.
People didn't realize that.
No.
And as he started his career, he was my hero because they started their career, if you were black, back in the late 60s. That's when Jacksonville, this whole country, had a lot of racial tension.
Yeah, right.
And when you saw a black figure in law enforcement, you always call the word, oh, you one of them, or you sucking up. And he had to deal with that, but he handled it with grace and honor and respect. And I knew then that was my hero. When we sat down for dinner at 6 o'clock, we were all there.
Same time every day?
Same time every day.
Oh, wow.
We finished dinner 6:30. Dishes had to be washed by 6:40.
Oh, he didn't play.
Oh, he didn't play. Had to be bathed by 7:30. Homework, schoolwork had to be done by 8:30. And
Good Lord.
we were too tired to watch TV. We just wanted to go to sleep.
Right.
But I knew then
My goodness.
that I wanted to follow in his footsteps, like a lot of people did. That was my hero. I didn't have to look for athletes, those actors and stuff like that.
That's amazing.
It was Lonnie Miller and my mom, who was Emma Miller. They made sure that we had what it took to be successful in life. And that was, they were stern about education. I don't know what it was about education in them, but they made sure that we did it. And as we grew up, you know, every kid gonna get a little mischief.
In trouble, right. In trouble. We do.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the right. Got in trouble.
We do that.
We got in trouble.
Did it then, and they still doing it now.
And they still do it now. And I got in trouble. And Mama was always the disciplinarian.
Oh yeah.
Okay. They called my mom. You know, she was like back in the day. She was like the little mafia. If you need something taken care of,
she take care of it.
She took care of it. But that day, for some reason, she said, "I ain't no whoop you, boy." She said, "I ain't no whoop you. I'm gonna let your dad handle it." So I knew what was gonna happen then. So my oldest brother, Teddy, he said, "Man, this is what you need to do. Put on some pants and put on some t-shirts and then put your pajamas on and go to bed early." And Dad ain't no
he gonna pad you up, hey?
He gonna pad. I look like I was incredible. I look all beefed up then. I mean,
all those clothes on.
I mean, I would look like this. So Daddy came home. He said, "Boy, Mama told me what you did." He said, "Just go to bed." I said, "Sir?" He said, "Just go to bed." And I went to bed, and my brother said, "I told you I was right. You take that stuff off."
Got comfortable.
And about what? I took off the pajamas, took off them pants, took off them t-shirts and stuff, and put on some
went on the bed.
Paper thin pajamas and went on the bed. And then 1 o'clock in the morning, if you woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning, you always yawning.
Right.
And the light was like, who turned the light on? He said, "You thought I forgot, didn't you?" That's it.
You was in there resting comfortably.
I was in there resting comfortable. I'm grabbing my leg like, I ain't got them pants on no more. And I said, well, maybe if I go to the bathroom, I can sneak a pan there and put them on. Where you taking the pants at, boy? Nowhere. And we can imagine.
We thought we had all the sense, didn't we?
I thought I had all the sense in the world. But it made me who I am today. It made me who I am today.
Oh, yeah.
After retiring 15 years ago, being on this job.
You retired 15 years ago. Wow.
15 years ago. Being on that job for 34 years.
Wow.
And still here to say, I'm proud that my parents and even my stepmother, Miss Aki Miller, helped me to be who I am today. I mean, and, we can talk back and forth about a lot of things, and, we love our parents.
Oh,
who
absolutely.
Does not?
Absolutely.
And my father was, like I say, he was a family man, and this is a picture of him with his grandchildren.
Oh, look at him.
His 2 girls. And he loved them to death.
Yeah, those grandchildren still their heart.
Oh, yeah, they're still their hearts and heartbeat. Wow. And he made sure that they were well cared for. He was always a planner. And he allowed me to plan for myself also to make sure I had a good job and to do the right thing. I can talk about this all day.
Yeah.
And it's a part of our history because back in the day when consolidation was in 68, we always say, can we see somebody that looked like us?
Yes, right.
And it was few.
Yeah.
When he started, there was names that many of you may never know or may never hear. Peter Jack Bell.
Never heard the name.
He was one of the, not a constable, but got on the sheriff office back in the day. There was a gentleman that worked at the Review Desk, Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, I remember him.
He had over 40-something years before he retired. There was Mr. Fluker.
Yep, we talked to Mr.
Heroes
Fluker.
that you don't hear
Oh,
about.
yeah.
Mr. Jefferson. Those guys came on, and they made it easiest for us.
Yeah.
Because we were gun-ho. A lot of us, like myself, we were rebellious because we wanted more, but we had to be in a time frame and mindset where we have to listen to what the older guys said. And we did.
Yeah.
We listened, and it was just so much history that my father and other gentlemen that were a part of. Mr. Happy Reed.
Say that name again.
Mr. Happy Reed.
Never heard that. See, we need that history.
Those are histories
We need that history.
people don't hear about. I don't know.
Yeah, we need that history.
But when you talk to people like Mr. Fluker, who was back in the day,
Yeah.
not saying anything bad about his age, but back
no,
in the
of course
day,
not.
they knew those things.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to work with Mr. Fluker one time. When,
Great man.
Great man.
Great man.
Great man. I had never had a problem with him about it when I worked with him. Except he did get mad when he said I never arrested 8 people one time before at one time.
Wait a minute, what?
8 people.
Who arrested 8 people at one time?
Being young, we were go-getters, us young guys. Because we had to make sure that we did what our parents wanted us to do because their reputation was
On the line, right?
Wow,
right,
on the line.
And speaking of that, we're going to talk about your father's reputation. You're going to tell the story, then we'll talk about it. But your father had a heck of a reputation with the sheriff's office.
I'll give him
But
credit.
let's go back to these 8 people you arrested at one time.
And Mr. Fluker. I had just got off training for about a year, and I was just flying.
Yeah.
Just cruise,
Tearing it up.
and tearing them up. And something happened where Mr. Fluker had to ride one day. I think they were he was over at the Brentwood satellite office. Wow, that was like
Long time ago. That had to be a long time ago.
And they were doing something to the office, so they had him ride with me. And boy, I said, hey, I'm gonna let this man know how to do police work.
You're gonna show him,
I'm gonna show him. But I'm just flying around the corner right, slam right, take it, shoot. And I knew the guys like to play rolling the ball at a certain time in certain plays. So I said, we finna go and get somebody. I said, what I needed for you to do is you drive the car around this way real fast and hit on the brakes. Because I went around the back and I was jumping the fences.
Oh my goodness, you really trying to impress Mr.
I had to impress Mr. because he was going to spread the word. Because if I didn't do nothing, man, you got that old sorry. So we just rolled around town all day. I jumped the fence. And I said, I'm in place. And I had to holler because we didn't have portable radios then. I just holler, okay, I'm in place. And he came around the corner, hit the brakes, and everybody went. And I jumped the fence. I said, hey, they didn't run.
Got
them all. 8 of them. Had to do the paperwork. He was like, man, we can't do this no more.
You working. You out here actually working.
Yeah, working. And it made me feel good because I knew he was gonna go back and tell Dad.
Tell everybody. Yeah, tell your daddy.
That's what I didn't want him. You ain't gotta tell no sergeant, no lieutenant. You go tell
my daddy.
Gotta tell him I watched out for you too now. he said, okay then. And those working with history.
Wow.
Working with history.
Wow.
And it was just great.
And your daddy probably thought you were crazy out there.
Oh man, he said, oh boy, what are you doing out there, boy? Oh, don't do that no more. He over there in Brentwood, that's like being retired. Don't you mess with that man no more. I said, yes, sir. Let him alone after that. I said, now they making ride with me now.
He gonna have to work.
He gonna have to work. Because that's how you taught us to work. And
But your dad had a wonderful reputation for being such a good, they said that if a person was wanted in Jacksonville, whether it was for petty theft or triple homicide, if you wanted to catch him, go put Lonnie Miller Sr. on him. They said he could catch anybody.
He could.
And it didn't take him long.
Caught me one time, but that's another story. But I'll say, in him doing his job, He have gotten numerous awards.
Wow, let's see,
This
Lonnie.
one right here is from the Jacksonville Urban League back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Urban League would do this often. They really were concerned about law enforcement.
Because they used to have these programs through the Urban League to get on some of these departments. And this is the one that was from the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Social Changes.
June 6, 1990, October 14, 1980. My goodness.
And this was from the House of Representatives.
Oh, wait a minute. This Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Social Change, it was out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes, ma'am.
And he received a commendation from them way down here in Jacksonville, Florida. Wow, that's awesome.
Yes, it was.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. This is because Mrs. King visited Jacksonville, Florida, and he took care of her.
He was in intelligence, and intelligence mostly handled the VIP protection when we had VIP protection in Jacksonville.
And this was when Miss Coretta Scott King visited. This is prestigious. Yeah.
The House of Representatives in Washington, D.C.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. 1994.
And this was from the Supreme Court Justices in Washington,
These are not just fly-by-night commendations. These are
when they came to Jacksonville.
These are some things to really be proud of. And for dignitaries to go back to where they came from and take the time out to sit down and put together a letter thanking you or commending you for your work. It says a lot about the level of work that he did.
Just a few. This is from the St. Matthew African American
Methodist, St. Stephen African Methodist Episcopal Church. Wow, this was in 94.
Those just a few.
Wow.
And I guess one of the things that I'm most proud of, and it was on a good note that he was a part of the investigation, but it was a sad note because that's when Jacksonville had that small Black Liberation Army. And their plans or their outlook was different from other people's outlook. And it caused the demise of a few people.
Yeah,
I would put, but he was able to be part of that investigation that brought it to an end.
Wow.
Many people don't know. It's the little things that he did that made me proud. There was one person I can't think. It was this member named Artist Tool was another one.
That name, Tool.
He was one of the guys that killed.
He was a murderer. I thought I remembered that name.
The serial ones.
Yeah, a serial killer. And your father was involved in that investigation.
Also.
Wow.
So, the family's proud,
Absolutely, should be.
A lot, for me, from a perspective of being a male, knowing that these are some of the things that I had to try to address as far as the pressure, which a lot more law enforcement officers, rather than female,
because your father had this reputation, and you coming along behind him, you had to
have the same respect and give the same respect that people expect. And being fair.
Right.
And it was a lot of pressure. Oh gosh. And it was like, well,
imagine.
If I'd had any other name, first name, it wouldn't have been that bad.
Right.
But it was.
You got the whole name.
I had the whole name.
The whole name.
The whole name.
The whole name.
And.
But that's something to actually be proud of.
Oh, it never was
that's
ashamed
something to be proud of.
Dealt with the pressure in a way that I didn't think I could because I was always fair. I was always honest. He always said, don't touch nobody's money if it ain't yours.
That's right.
And I live by that today. He said, if you can't tell the truth, it's time for you to go. Because once you tell that first untruth about this job,
you got to keep
That's rolling along. And I figured that it's not worth my reputation and ruin the family name because people like Mr. Jefferson, his sons, Brian Jefferson. I mean, it's, Brother Henley was another one of their parents. Chief Spates was a great man. He even thought about running for sheriff at one time.
Right.
His son also had that same
That's
pressure.
right, the same
put on
kind of
them.
pressure.
And
That's right.
it's a different type of pressure than a regular person that gets into this job. But it's one that you carry with pride. It made you do better.
Yeah.
It made you to be as the best that we could be, because we had to say, well, if he got a reputation, I might want one too. But I would want the one that will say, well, hey, you know, he might have put me in jail, but he was fair.
Right, right.
And I think that is what's important today. Just because we might have seen things differently, I didn't let that interfere with my judgment.
That's right.
Because if I would have, you know, it
Yeah.
would not have been fair.
Well, it sounds like your father set the standard for you all.
He set the standard
specifically for you, because you
me.
went into law enforcement. So he
Because I
set
went
the
into
standard.
law enforcement.
You recognize what that standard
I
was,
recognized what that standard was.
and you honored him.
And I honored him.
Yeah.
And I can say that I can see somebody today that might have put in jail 20 years ago, they'll shake my hand because they say, you know, if you hadn't done that, where would I be?
Yeah, yeah. Because you were always fair about
Because
it.
I was fair, and you know as well as I do, you've seen many people and you have changed lives that you don't know that you have touched.
Yeah.
20 years from now, they might be doctors and
Yep.
lawyers. Because I remember you working one of the after school program, Team Up, at Lake Shore.
Team Up, yes.
She got me good, people. Let me tell y'all, she got me good at Lake Shore Elementary School when she was the head director of Team Up. And I know I'm going off the subject a little bit, but I got to tell this story.
Oh, boy.
She had about 20 girls.
Always work with the
A
girls.
lot of them didn't have fathers.
Yep.
So she put together a cotillion. Knowing I ain't know how to do all that fancy dancing.
But what did I do?
Hey, she gave us dancing
Gave you
lessons.
dance lessons, didn't I?
She
No
got
excuse.
Brought out an instructor, and we started dancing with the little kid, doing the practice. And when we had to continue, we were all dressed up.
Really dressed up.
I ain't trying to say that, but I did look good that day. Lost about 10 pounds just in case. Wanted that tuxedo to fit just right.
Oh, yeah.
And Sister Dixon, she put on a beautiful event. The kids, I'm pretty sure she was talking about having a reunion one day. See where these young ladies are. And if she does, I've been more than
Oh,
happy
well,
to
I
have
can
her.
tell you where they are, because they're all on social media.
All on social media.
They are doing wonderful. All of them.
Great.
Nurses and
Great.
doctors. I even have one that works for Disney.
That is wonderful.
Like big Disney, like worked on
Those projects.
The Princess and the Frog or whatever it was.
Wow.
So,
That's
yeah,
right.
those girls are doing wonderful. And I thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because it just goes to show that police officers are so much more
We are much
than just police officers. But it took what was instilled in you for you to even agree to do that.
to
Because a
agree.
lot of people are like, well, I just, it's not my child.
Not my child.
It's not my child, or I'm not comfortable doing that. And even though you weren't comfortable doing it, I knew you weren't comfortable doing it. But you did it.
But because
and I
of her.
appreciated that.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that.
And
So you've done so much.
And it's not just me, it's my oldest brother, Ted Miller, who is the oldest brother now.
Okay.
He worked for Bell South over 40 years, and my father taught us those values of work.
Yeah, and get somewhere and stay
We're
there.
going to say that he worked there for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
I have another brother that's Vyron. He was in the Marine for over 30 years.
Wow.
And we have another sister and brother who passed away, but they were on their jobs for over 25
So y'all had that role model. You had that role model that showed you what work ethic was about.
ethic was about.
Yeah.
Because when I saw him go to work every day,
Yeah.
that told me, well, I need to go to work every day.
That's right.
And he always put the family first. And I was like, well, maybe I can do the same thing. And my oldest brother, I kind of, he watched out for us as we were growing up. And even today, he's still the oldest of the family. The values that my dad had put in him,
Yeah.
he still makes sure that, hey, we meet,
Pass
we sit
that
down
on.
and talk. Hey, anybody having trouble with the family? Hey, we sit down and
That's
talk
wonderful.
about it. And those are the things that he incorporated in his day-to-day working, because he had coworkers that, hey, guys, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Treat everybody right.
Yeah.
And that's some of the things that I enjoyed about this job, treating people fair.
Yeah.
Didn't like it all the time. Even when you're right, sometimes people are going to think you that, I'm not going to say wrong, but you could have done something differently.
Right.
And sometimes you can't, because if you do it differently, then you're putting yourself in jeopardy on this job. And one of the things that he taught me, because he said, Lonnie, one thing you must never do is make a man look bad in front of his children.
Oh, that's good.
Because he will always
that is good.
be your enemy. Because children don't forget. And those are things that I would tell a person if he was driving knowing he had to go to jail.
Right.
I would say, listen, sir, I'm going to let you talk all the smack you want to. Because you know the reason why I'm doing it. I'm not going to make you look bad in front of your children. Because I don't want your children to think I'm the bad guy.
Right.
And he said, I appreciate it, man. I said, good to go. Go to jail with no problem.
Yeah.
It was about, he taught us great communication skills, which all these great officers before me had. Just Chris Robinson was another one. I remember when I came out on my first call, he was there.
Wow.
He was a detective, and we had caught this burglary suspect, and he said, this is how you write that report. I said, thank you very much.
Well, you know, it's all these people that you're mentioning, excuse me, those that are still alive. We basically spoke with them, and they did talk about communication. And it's all in the way that you talk to people and the way that you treat people. Is what makes the difference. Right. So, yeah, they talked about that. And that's what they did. They talked to us, like I said, Mr. Fluker, these guys from way back, Happy Reed. I mean, just people that if you didn't know who they were, you never would have known. Yeah, right. There was one evidence technician, his name was Mr. Coffee. I remember him. They said he looked like George Jefferson. I remember Mr. Coffee. I just had to say that, throw that out there, okay? I remember him. He looked like George Jefferson. But he was just as nice as he could be. He was just as nice as he could be. Yeah, he really was. And that's what he taught. He said, this is what you're supposed to do. You know, and I think the most important thing when I do talk about some of the older guys is they said, one thing I never want you to do, and I say, what's that? Never tell a man to sit on the ground. I said, if I tell him that, he ain't no run. He said, but listen, he said, you only tell an animal to sit on the ground. And when he told me that, wow, never told a man to sit on the ground. These are nuggets. These are beautiful nuggets, because when you think about humanity, and even though you have a job to do, you can do that job in a way where people can respect that you're doing your job. You don't have to talk to somebody like an animal or treat someone like an animal, because you have the power and the authority to do so. And we will, as they say, life and death at our fingertips. And we know what that fingertip means when you're pulling that trigger. And I hate to say it that way. But my father taught us that you can be a better person. And I call these, they call us legacy children, or you want to call them legacy fathers. Great legacy fathers, the one that were before our parents. They had ideals, but they couldn't bring them forth because of the times and the times that they were living in. They were not accepted. But as we look at today's law enforcement in our society, they're accepted now. And it makes the job easier for each and every one of us. Because I have my youngest daughter, which is Lonita. I have 4 children. When I say 4 children, adult children, want to get that cleared up. And none of them wanted to get in law enforcement except for one. And I was the youngest one. And she said, she never said she wanted to be like me. She said, I want to be like my granddaddy. Oh, my goodness. He really had an impact. He had an impact. He really had an impact. And whenever we were together, she said, I want to go see my granddaddy. I said, okay, we got to go down to the police station. She said, that's fine. I would give her my badge. We had a little wallet badge, and she would stick it in right in front of her. So cute. And the next thing you know, she take off to her granddaddy. She'd take off to her granddaddy. I'd be like, well, I said, well, she don't do that around me. That's the granddaddy. It was
what they taught us from day one. He was a disciplinarian. But it was not abuse.
Yeah, right.
There's a difference.
That's right. That's right.
And once it was done, it was over with.
Yeah.
Hit you 3-4 times, might be 5, 6, 7.
Depending on what you did.
Depending on what you
How
did.
egregious the infraction was.
The infraction was. That's right. You know, we got probation every now and then. And if you didn't get probation, might got a warning.
What was it?
Boy.
Steve Space, when he was on here, he said, my daddy would say, I'm going to get you for the old and the new. So that probation was just temporary.
Temporary.
Something wrong. But I want to say that I'm glad that you're saying all this and you're bringing all this up, because what I've heard was for all the good work that your father was able to do, and he did a lot. He caught a lot of bad guys, but it was always because of his relationships with people and communication. I mean, Brian Jefferson was here, and we were talking one time, and he was telling me about how they were looking for this suspect, had been looking for him all night and couldn't find him, and got to the office and mentioned it to your dad, and within a couple hours, your dad had taken them to 2 or 3 locations where he had relationships with people, talked to those people, and this guy was wanted for a murder that had just happened like the night before, and he just almost took them straight to this guy. Was able to find out who this person was, just knowing what type of vehicle the guy drove and that he was, what color he was, and that was it. But found the guy was discarding, actually, when they walked up, discarding the weapons that he had used. And so it was those relationships that he had with people that really made all the difference in the way that he was able to do his job and how people loved him so much.
Yes.
And so I do want to bring up, I hope that it's okay, and if it's not, you can tell me that it's not okay.
No,
but I do want to bring up that your father is no longer with us.
Yeah.
How many years did he do?
He did close to 30.
Close to 30 years with the sheriff's office.
And this May the 6th, 2025, will be the 30th year of his unsolved.
Oh my goodness, it doesn't seem like it's been that long.
Doesn't seem that long.
It does not seem like it's been that long. I will tell you, though, he is truly, truly, truly missed, and he will never be forgotten. He, as Lonnie alluded to, his father was off duty and volunteered to handle a call. Am I correct?
Yes, he did.
And unfortunately, when he went to handle that call, he was murdered, unfortunately, and it shook our city so bad. Because he was just so good at his job, and everyone just adored him. But unfortunately, that crime has not been solved.
No.
And so we always like to take the opportunity to say, if there's anybody who might see this and might know something, or know somebody else who might know something, please reach out to the local sheriff's office at 904-630-0500, or you can email the Brotherhood at jaxbop@gmail.com, so that we can provide whatever information is out there to the sheriff's office. It is a cold case, but we do hope and pray that case gets solved.
And we're confident that one day it will be.
Absolutely. And I know that was difficult for you, but every year, of course, we think about him all the time, every day. But every year during Police Memorial Week locally and Police Memorial Week in Washington, D.C., your father's honored because he made that ultimate sacrifice.
Yes, he did.
And I will also say that if anybody's ever in the D.C. area, there's a museum there that's been set up for law enforcement officers that were killed in the line of duty, and your father holds space there.
Yes.
He's being honored there. There's a story that you can read. There's pictures of him. There's a wall that you can sign. It's just really, really beautiful. So if you ever get the opportunity to visit there, please do so. And we've been there many times. Many times. And I know that it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I'm so grateful that you have such fond memories of him.
Oh, yes, I do.
And that he was such a good father.
He was. I mean, he was.
It's hard to find a young man who will say, I don't need to look for a hero because my father was my hero.
He was. Yes, he
That's
was.
hard to find. So you were truly blessed to have him for the time that he was here, and his legacy is just amazing.
It is. It's a good legacy left behind with his children.
Yeah. And even his granddaughter. For his granddaughter to want to be like her grandfather, I mean, that's unusual.
Amazing. It's unusual.
It is truly amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it took an effort from the first 7, and I use the term again, back in the day, that opened the doors for us.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
they gave us an opportunity, and all we asked was for that chance.
Yeah.
And by giving us that chance, a lot of us legacy children retired.
That's
right. Been on his job
That's
for 30 years.
That's right. I'm grateful.
All of us,
I'm grateful.
That's wonderful.
And you know what? You brought up the first 6, and I want to throw this in just for context. That people they sacrificed a lot and they gave a lot to pave the way. Charlie C. was also one of the first 6, and he was killed way back then was killed in the line of duty. Yeah, he was going. I read the story. He was going to respond to a call of a disturbance off of Myrtle Avenue, on Myrtle Avenue. And it turned out to be a burglary in progress.
Yeah.
And the gentleman killed him on the back porch of the house. But he was one of the first 6 African American officers to be hired, other than the constables, to be hired here in Jacksonville. And he really paved the way for all of us as well, and gave his life. So those individuals really hold a special place in our hearts.
They do.
They really hold a special place in our hearts, and their legacies should never be forgotten. And every chance we get to mention their names and tell their stories, I feel like we should.
We should.
Your father has a beautiful statue that's been erected at the Police Memorial Building.
Yes.
Here in downtown. You brought pictures of it.
Here in Jacksonville.
Here in Jacksonville. So, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So that was done in a ceremony. And it's beautiful. And so every time we go down there, we're reminded of the sacrifice that he made. And there's a city park that's been named after him.
There's a park named after him also on the north side. And when they had the dedication over, there's that word again, many years ago.
Long time ago.
His wife, Miss Aki Miller here, showing at the dedication.
Look at Glover.
Where they're cutting the ribbon and dedicating the park.
And Mayor Payton, right? That looks like John Payton.
That was Delaney.
Delaney, that's right, Delaney.
And Mr. Councilman Hosendahl.
Yep.
This was the sheriff also of Duval County. And
well, that was an awesome event.
Awesome event.
And he's never been forgotten. And there are just so many tributes to him around the city, and your father just will always be loved by all of us. So you definitely, as I've shared with you so many times, have my condolences.
Thank you.
But you know what? We're going to keep his legacy alive.
We're going to keep it alive.
That's what we're going to do.
I'm going to be there to keep it alive.
Yeah.
We don't forget it. Whenever I have an opportunity to speak with the investigators, we speak about it.
Yeah.
One of our council members, Ken O'Merrill, he's now, when he was with Channel 12, he's now city council person.
Yeah.
And we spoke just the other day when he was at the Johnny May Chappelle dedication.
Yeah.
And he used to interview me once a year.
Yeah.
And even today, with the young lady, I cannot think what her name is, she started doing the interviewing now. So a week before his anniversary, they always come out and interview us.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always make sure that I keep in my front living room is this is his badge right there for me. Yes,
my goodness.
The original badge, and it's been locked in that paper since 1998.
And for those who are not familiar, this is evidence packaging.
Yes.
And I'm assuming it's from the night of the incident. Lord.
That's his badge right there.
My Lord. Wow. I believe I'm just taking a moment of silence because it's so touching. It's so touching. We know that by the grace of God, this crime is going to be solved. It will be solved. So thank you, Lonnie, for sharing all of that with us. And so we don't want to leave on a somber note, right?
No.
We're not going to leave on a somber note. So having said that, let me pick up this picture right here.
Oh, look
Your
at
daddy was a mess.
Oh, my goodness. Hey,
Who is this?
You never see him in a uniform. But when he heard that beautiful young lady right there, Natalie Cole, is going to
He put a uniform on.
He put on a uniform.
He's looking sharp, too.
I'm going to be there.
Sharp. Oh, my goodness.
He was in the detective business since he came on the department, and when they had consolidated.
Never had a uniform, huh?
Never wore a uniform. Never. President Carter came in here. He did not have
He
on
sure
a uniform.
did. I saw a picture recently.
There's a picture.
I forget where I saw it at, but somebody had to pull that picture.
If you look at it, he ain't in a uniform then. And you can tell it's him because if you look at that left hand, he did wear a nugget every night and then. It was kind of sticking out.
You know it.
That's him right there. In uniform.
With Natalie Cole.
With Natalie with a hat on.
With a hat on when he pulled the hat out.
And it's one of them old type because he always had it broke down like he was a motorman.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
You know, like there was a motorman. I got to call his name right quick.
Go ahead.
It was Mr. Wilbur Wiggins.
Oh, Wilbur Wiggins, yes indeed.
He has a beautiful wife.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
He always had like Mr. Wiggins. He had it broke down like he was a motorman.
But not this day.
But not this day.
Not this day.
He there with Natalie Cole. And I say, look at
Showing out.
I ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Well, that was just one of the perks of the job.
Yeah, that was one of the perks of the job.
Just one of the perks of the
I'm gonna leave
job.
the rest of the perks alone. Some of the hard work that I did, he got credit for. I won't mention some of it. I won't.
Well, it was his name first.
It was his name first. It was his name first. You know,
Right.
called a bank robbery suspect one time. Who got the credit for it?
It was his name first. Let him
And
have
I'm
it.
gonna let it go ahead.
Let him have it.
You know, it was.
Well, Lonnie, I just want to thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. This has been wonderful. For everything that your father taught you and
Yes.
for the legacy that he left behind and everything that you've accomplished because of him, congratulations. Congratulations, because you have retired from the sheriff's office. You've been enjoying retirement for a while. You're also actively involved in other things like the union work and community service work and things along those lines. So I'm sure that he's smiling from above right now, just happy at what you've done and your siblings and his grandchildren. I'm sure he's just so proud of what everyone has done. And so for sharing all of that with us today, I say thank you.
And you're quite welcome.
Yeah. Did you have any parting words you wanted to share with us?
I'm gonna be here a long time, and we're gonna make sure his case gets solved.
Yeah.
And if there's anything we can ever do for the community, please let us know. We did create a small scholarship.
I was just gonna bring that up.
Education.
Yeah.
And we're a proud family.
Yeah.
He taught us.
Yeah, so the family does do a scholarship every year in honor of Mr. Miller. You do it through the Fraternal Order of Police, correct? Through the Fraternal Order of Police. And so, yeah, if you want to contribute to that, feel free. Reach out to the Jacksonville Fraternal Order of Police and ask for Lonnie Miller Jr.'s contact information if you want to contribute towards that scholarship. It's a wonderful thing. And so, thank you again for coming, Lonnie. And
Thank you.
we'll definitely have to get together and talk some more soon, okay?
We will.
All right. I appreciate you coming.
And I thank you for allowing me to be here.
All right.
Okay.